It's another episode of Social Distancing at the Chamber, a Thursday night edition with our CEO, Glenn Hammer. It's happy hour with Hammer. Glenn, welcome back to the show. I got a few items to throw at you tonight.
Good to see you, Garrick.
Doug Ducey, yesterday in a press conference, we talked a little bit about it on last night's show, and we talked about an example of an innovative retailer. He's turning up the dimmer switch on retail beginning May 4th, a little bit more on May 8th. Just your thoughts about this new step forward.
We're making progress. To me, he moved the chains economically with his announcement yesterday. Yes, the stay-at-home orders do stay for another couple of weeks because that's what the data shows is prudent. But we're putting more oxygen into our economy, and we're doing it in one very important area in the next few days. That's the retail sector, and that's right before Mother's Day, so that'll be useful.
Right.
And he put on deck our restaurant sector, where by the middle of May, we could see some increased oxygen into that sector by the way of some sort of in-house dining experience done safely and in coordination with the Arizona Restaurant Association.
Yeah,
and I forgot to mention the fact that elective surgeries will begin again starting tomorrow. And that's very important for the health of Arizonans that have delayed what is usually necessary but delayable medical procedures. And it's very important for our healthcare sector that has also been hit very hard financially.
Glenn, I'm not a regular purchaser of fine jewelry, but I did I'm on an email mailing list like everybody. I got one forwarded to me. It says it's from a jewelry store in town. Following Arizona governor guidelines, we'll be reopening our showroom on May 8th. We'll be implementing new sanitation practices and following social distancing guidelines to protect the health of our customers and our staff. Then they go on to announce temporary hours. You put out a statement yesterday. In some ways, this is all you can ask for. A little bit of, you're looking for some creativity, but also smart, prudent, but we can do this a little bit at a time.
Well, the governor on a call with business leaders about 10 or so days ago, again, we all lose track of days and time, really put out a statewide suggestion box. Help us figure out good ways to reopen parts of the economy that have been frozen safely. And Arizona just did that, including the Arizona Chamber. And what you see comes out of this are some very productive steps. So we've got three big things happening in the next several weeks. And Garrick, it's important also to put it in context. As the governor has said, we went in later and lighter in terms of the essential services and activities order. Construction, manufacturing, mining, agriculture, many areas remained open, including activities such as golf. So, more of our economy is open today than most other states. And thank God, on the healthcare side, our hospitals have the necessary ICU and emergency room beds. They have the ventilators, and we're continuing to make progress to beat, or at least to contain, a deadly global pandemic.
It seems like everybody on your chamber staff these days are on these various national phone calls, and you get to compare notes with colleagues across the country. Everybody's doing their best, but I found it interesting. I was looking at what one state is doing, and again, everybody's doing their best, but they were announcing the reopening of some industries that in Arizona have been open the whole time. And that's not to condemn other states, but like you said, it's been a lighter touch.
No, it's been a lighter touch, and it's all been data driven. So we could feel very comfortable about this. The governor puts the health and welfare of Arizonans first. He understands that we have to make sure that our hospital system is never ever overrun. And he also, what I always love talking about in the state of Arizona is that we know next year, Garrick, the policy environment will be better than this year. We don't know exactly in which ways. But we know it will be meaningfully better. And what I like about this approach, I feel very comfortable saying a month from today, we're going to have more of our economy open. A month from today, we'll be in a better situation on a medical side. A month from today, we're going to have a lot more testing, both
Right.
diagnostic and antibiotic. And we're going to continue that progress until the point where we have much better therapeutics and eventually, God willing, a vaccine.
Right. One of the reasons that we're going to be looking a little bit better in a month and a month after that and a month after that is because of Arizona's proximity to Mexico. And I wanted to flag another issue for you is that Senators McSally and Sinema both signed on to a bipartisan letter that was circulated by Senator Cornyn and Senator Feinstein, urging Secretary Pompeo to do what he can to make sure there is really good alignment between the U.S. and Mexico in the definition of essential businesses, because that's so important when you're talking about cross-border supply chains. It's something you've been paying a lot of attention to.
Well, we know you know a lot more about trade that I do. We put a lot of time into the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement. There's bipartisan agreement, and it's violent agreement in a positive way, that we're bringing the supply chains to the United States and to North America. And given our proximity with Mexico, the fact that we're building advanced electric vehicles of all sorts of different types together because of that supply chain in Sonora and our manufacturing capability here in Arizona, medical devices. You could look at all sorts of industries, Garrick. And this is an area where we're going to really ramp up, particularly when we get out to the other end of this pandemic. It's very welcome news.
One of the things that the letter cited is that you don't want disruptions to key components, and that can affect all sorts of industries from construction to high tech to including healthcare. A lot of healthcare equipment, that stuff originates in one country and ends up in another.
Well, as we're building the stuff together, it was a concern that our friends in Mexico had some different standards. Now, I'll first say we need to respect sovereignty. We need to respect that each country has different healthcare concerns. But what I'm excited about is through the good work of the National Association of Manufacturers, the U.S. Chamber, and a lot of different companies, it seems that we will land at a good place. And these protocols will be pretty standardized. So again, when we get to the other end, and particularly when consumer demand starts ramping up, we're going to be building a lot more stuff here. That's for sure.
That's for sure. All right, last topic, an area where Arizona is definitely a leader when it comes to its relationship with Mexico is on the importation of fresh produce from Mexico. Glenn, a bit of a head scratcher coming out of Santa Cruz County, specifically Nogales, which is one of the country's major entry points for fresh produce, in that there have been increased USDA inspections in Nogales area warehouses. We've talked to our friends in the industry down there that they're doing their best to limit foot traffic in and out of those warehouses, not increase it for obvious public health reasons. Your initial reaction to this stumper?
Yeah, not the finest moment for our bureaucracy. And I'll first start out by saying that I have a tremendous amount of respect for our agricultural USDA Secretary, Sonny Perdue. In fact, when we actually had in-person meetings at the Arizona Chamber, we had him in our conference room a number of years ago. It may have been on an education topic. He was also former governor of Georgia.
What a memory. That's right. I forgot about that.
No. So I'm a big fan of Secretary Perdue, but this just makes no sense. And, I don't care what level of government you're talking about, federal, state, or local, you want to minimize that human traffic. This is unnecessary bureaucracy. And we don't want, the last thing in the world we need is any further disruption to our food supply. I mean, we already have issues domestically on meat production. I want to make sure each and every morning I can have my avocado, and this avocado is from Mexico. So, and a lot of the fruits and vegetables, tomatoes in particular, come through Nogales. So,
Glenn, your shameless advocacy to take over an avocado trade association will not go unnoticed.
I hope it's in the cards at some point.
Glenn, back when the chamber still had events in person, you might remember at the 2019 Update from Capitol Hill luncheon, you had a conversation with Senator McSally on stage about ensuring that we could continue to import fresh tomatoes from Mexico. And she was pointing out that this is not a battle between the U.S. and Mexico. As far as Nogales and the Nogales, Sonora, and Nogales, Arizona are concerned, they're on the same team. This was a dust-up between Arizona and Florida. And some of that stuff is starting to come up again, and it's really, the timing couldn't be worse, could it?
It's terrible policy. It's wrong for the state of Florida. Look, I love Florida. I go to a lot of meetings in Florida when I was able to travel. But this is a case where Americans deserve fresh tomatoes. It's healthier, and it's a very important industry in terms of everything Nogales does in terms of storing and having Arizona as a transport point. And again, I'm not just saying this because it's the right policy, generally speaking. I'm also saying it because in the time of COVID-19, we need as much good, fresh food, fruits, vegetables, and meat as we possibly can have. And I would say that right now, for all these types of things, let's have the best policies. And then when we get to the other end of this, let's get back to policy disputes if we must. But this is one where, we've got some things going on that just make absolutely no sense. And I'm not saying this lightly. I believe they're actually borderline dangerous policies.
Yeah, especially when you're hearing, you and I heard a recent report about community spread in Santa Cruz County. Nogales is a small, condensed community. In many ways, it's an industry town. You can't risk this sort of thing.
I would just say that, the Trump administration has changed, a number of the international protocols to reflect the pandemic we're in, as have other countries.
Sure.
Let's just across the board, state, federal, local, reduce any sort of unnecessary human bureaucratic interference with the free market system.
Right. And Glenn, not to beat this dead horse, but we brought it up a lot during the USMCA debate, which is we're going to be building high-tech cars and trucks in Pinal County. We're going to sell those all around the world. But Arizona is a big winner on imports, and Nogales is a perfect example because those imports are job creators in Santa Cruz County.
We are. And Garrick, the other thing is where we're importing stuff. So when we're importing stuff from Mexico, that's great for our border communities, not just for those industries, but on the tourism and sales tax side. Right. I mean, since the border has been shut, and we understand why. I mean, this is happening all over the world, but those communities their sales tax revenues are being decimated. 50, 60, 70% traditionally come from our friends from Mexico, shopping, staying in our stores, eating in our restaurants. Right. So we need their economy to come back just as, like we need our economy to come back.
Absolutely. Glenn, it's the fastest 15 minutes in sports. It flies by. We'll finish out the week strong tomorrow. Special guests, don't want to spoil it, but we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you, Garrick.